I wanted to ask, because I didn't watch the whole stream, so I kind of came in the last 15 minutes. Did you
Yes.
guys talk about the book of Isaiah and Trinitarianism? Because I know we're talking about
Yeah, I know you
Trinitarianism.
mentioned
Old
Isaiah
Testament.
48:16.
Yeah.
I did two-part article on Isaiah 48:16 in a session where it says, and now the sovereign Lord, Adonai Yehovah, sent me in a spirit. And the assumption is the last part of Isaiah 48:16, the last part, it's Jehovah speaking, because from verses 12 to 16, Jehovah is speaking.
Right.
So just let me help everyone understand what your argument is. In Isaiah 48:12 to 16, Jehovah is speaking. And he describes himself as the first and the last, and the one who made the heavens with his hands, and so on. Then at the very end of verse 16, Isaiah 48:16, there the speaker says, and now Jehovah, Adonai, Yehovah, sent me and his spirit. Now, in the King James Version, it's rendered, and the Lord God, Adonai, Jehovah, and his spirit has sent me. So is this God speaking of being sent by God and the spirit? See, this is the question that people ask me. Is that your question, just so I can be clear?
Yes.
The problem is, and this is where you're going to see the problem, because of the proliferation of English translations done by Trinitarians. If you guys pay attention to your translation, you're going to see that according to, now there are no quotation marks in the original languages, but I'm trying to highlight a problem. The King James has no quotation marks, but if you get a translation, NIV, you get NIV or NASB, you're going to see their quotation marks. Many evangelical Trinitarian translations will end the section where God speaks right before the last line. So you're going to see the quotation marks at the end of "there am I," quotation marks, meaning now God stopped speaking. And the last line is Isaiah speaking, that Jehovah sent me with a spirit.
Okay.
You see what's happening in our translations?
Right.
So the problem is, and I'm not trying to cut you out, I just want to help you understand. If you follow a translation, many translations will tell you this last line, and now the Lord God and his spirit has sent me. That's not God speaking, because God's words end previously. There I am, there am I. God's words end, and now Isaiah comes to the forefront and says, see, Jehovah sent me with his spirit. So that means it's not a Trinitarian passage if you assume that last sentence, it's Isaiah speaking about Jehovah sending him by the Spirit to make the words of Jehovah known.
Okay. So which then would be the proper translation into English?
Yeah. Well, to be honest, it is difficult to conclusively prove there isn't a change in speaker. So if you are not convinced of the Trinity, this is not a passage that's going to convince you. But if you are a Trinitarian, any passage is going to convince you. You see, it comes to assumption. So do I use this to prove the Trinity? No, because I would have to prove that the same speaker throughout is speaking till the end, and that's Jehovah. But you can prove there are two divine persons. Why? Because even if it's Isaiah speaking, notice what Isaiah says. Jehovah sent me and his spirit. So the spirit is distinct from Jehovah, but united with Jehovah. And the Spirit is the one who empowers the prophets to communicate Jehovah's words. So you do get two divine persons.
That's also what I was going to mention. That even if the person speaking is not God himself, there's still a mention of the Lord God and his Spirit.
Emphasize that part.
Right. Thank you.
Say it at least proves the binity of binitarianism. That the Spirit is not identical to God, distinct from God, whom God sends to empower the prophets to speak God's words.
Okay.
I would use that to prove this God and the Spirit, but I don't use it as a Trinitarian proof text because of the difficulties. Trying to convince someone, no, it's the same speaker. There's no change in speaker.